was we're in the middle of a busy midweek. A lot of players playing overseas in Champions League and otherwise. Probably the biggest story from yesterday is Borussia Dortmund fire Sahin. Is this a good or a bad thing for Gio?
I think you have to look at it as a good thing, right? I think because he is a player that wasn't getting significant starts. He did get a couple of starts. I mean, I think towards the end, so he was just throwing stuff up against the wall, right? He was just like, what are we doing here? We got no plan. We don't. I mean, he had some injuries. I mean, Gio played more when Julian Brandt was out, and as soon as Julian Brandt came back, it was less time for Gio. Dortmund is a mess. And I saw plenty of observers, people who pay more attention to the Bundesliga and Dortmund, say, if the board could fire themselves, they should fire themselves, right? Because it's not Sahin that's the problem. It's sort of institutional at Dortmund. They set this up for Nuri Sahin to take over for Terzic last year. They set Terzic up, right? The guy who they didn't love because of the style of football that he wanted to play or that he was playing. They made a Champions League final, and this is where they are. And they had handpicked former player Nuri Sahin to take over. They brought him in without Tercic's say so as an assistant last year. I mean, that's always tough. Like when your replacement is hired and you don't even really what's happening here. So and I'm not saying that Edin Terzic was great. I mean, he had his moments, but again, he got them to a Champions League final, and here they are wallowing in a pretty bad spot. And, they do not have a birthright to being a German power. If they don't figure this out pretty quickly, it could get ugly. I think that this is more than is it good for Gio and his playing time? This might be the thing that gets us to the point of, Gio, get out however you can. Get out. There have been loans discussed this winter. If there is a transfer on the table, I hope Dortmund is open to taking something like, I don't know, can you get 30 million for Gio? 25, something like that. They may think he should have had more value. He doesn't right now because they've mishandled his development. His injuries have slowed him at some level. He has the stain of the World Cup on his record. He just needs to get out and have a fresh start, and Dortmund needs one.
In other Champions League action, the American duo for Juve, they got some time on the field in the 0-0 draw. Weah played for 66 minutes. Weston got about 20 minutes or so. I'm not sure. I wanted to ask where Weston played when he came in because I had a laugh over the weekend. He came in and played fullback, but on the other side than he did the week before. So I was just adding up. They're just checking the boxes of which positions Weston McKennie can play, and they're gonna find that one. They've almost got them all. They haven't put him in goal yet, like we heard suggested last week. But right-sided fullback, he can accomplish now. But they are moving him around and trying to find a place where he doesn't succeed. But he's still Weston, able to succeed no matter where they put him on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm going to have any frustration, it is the mild frustration that there is not an established position for Weston McKennie. But I'm not sure that it necessarily matters all that much. We've in the past had discussions about players, quote unquote, out of position with their clubs and how that would impact their ability to perform for the U.S. men's national team, but I'm not sure I worry about that too much with Weston McKennie. He is just a really, really, really good footballer, right? Will we ever have reason to call him world-class or do that whole debate? I don't know. Probably not. And as long as he's bouncing around the formation for Thiago Motta, probably he won't get that kind of love. But it says something incredible about him that no matter where Motta puts him, he performs well. And he's in that kind of form at the moment in his career. He was playing the 10 in the league on the weekend, right? And again, he's a fullback. He's an 8. He, dropping in at center back, I guess, occasionally. Obviously, he can go up top and he can do things because of his ability to win the ball in the air and things like that. I mean, I will maintain this. Like, he's a very good footballer, but first and foremost, Weston McKennie is, if he's not a world-class soccer player, he is a world-class athlete, right? Just athletically Weston McKennie is elite, and that allows him to adapt. Now, you have to have an understanding of your position and spacing and all that stuff, and obviously touch is different than sort of pure athletic ability. But the guys, I said this before, if Weston McKennie, Texas-born Weston McKennie, son of a serviceman, spent time in Germany, it's why he became a soccer player, basically. If he had decided to be a football player, an American football player, he would have been all-state in Texas. He would have gotten a full ride to play quarterback at some massive football school because that's the kind of athlete he is.
Elsewhere, AC Milan play Girona today. Pulisic still doubtful from his injury. Yunus Musa reportedly still healthy, so some games still to take in this afternoon if you want to catch some Americans. Have you seen anything regarding Pulisic and when he might return?
I do not expect him to play today. I think that is it's still a little bit early. They are trying to be careful with him. I think it's pretty clear he had a recurrence of the same injury that kept him out a little bit in December, and he came back and he was fine, but he got kicked. Right, he got kicked again, and clearly that wasn't ideal. Helped win the Supercopa in Saudi Arabia, gets kicked. You don't want to lose him for a couple of months. In fact, I think that's the thinking at Milan. They don't want to lose him for a couple of months. They obviously have the Champions League is a thing for them, and I do think this is an interesting moment for Milan because they don't have much hope of doing anything remarkable in the league. But there is still this pressure to finish top 4 to be sure of your Champions League spot next year, right? But as long as your Champions League campaign is still alive this season, well, the temptation would be lean into that, right? And they've won 4 in a row, and now they're on 12 points, and they're 15th in the table in the Champions League with 2 games left. So they can max out at 18 points, which could have them in the top 8 if some things break their way. I think that's unlikely. Obviously, Girona today. Look, they should be able to beat Girona. They should be able to, even without Christian Pulisic, they should be able to beat Girona. And, I don't know. And then they have Dinamo Zagreb on the final day of the Champions League next week in Zagreb. Should be mentioned, it's in Zagreb. So that's another one where you maybe think if you are Conceição, who is trying to figure it out in the league, I think that's his real task. You may be able to just not play your big guns in at least one of those games. It could be this week against Girona at home, or it could be next week against Dinamo Zagreb, or it could be both, right? And obviously the league is the league matches. They got Parma coming up on Sunday. Like Parma, you have to beat Parma if you're Milan and you want to be top 4. You got to beat Parma at home at the San Siro. They have Inter the Sunday after the final Champions League match day. So there are massive games in the league that Conceição has to deal with. You don't want to risk Christian Pulisic. Now, Musa may still get more opportunities because of this, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, it's wild to think that Milan, they're pretty good after winning those 4 games in a row after losing their first 2. And another notable match, non-American related though, Man City sitting on the edge of not making it through this first stage of this new Champions League format. They'll make it, but they are hanging on to the last place in the promotion or the continuing round with 8 points, with the aforementioned Zagreb tied with them. So still a lot to play for here in this league stage of the Champions League.
This is what we're so obviously we are ahead of the second half of match day 7 with games today. Manchester City PSG is the headlining game. That game in Paris, actually, PSG Man City. Winner of that, it's a must-win game for both teams because of their place. Because Manchester City's in 24th, which is the last spot to go into the playoff round to try to get to the round of 16, and PSG is in 26th. They're on the outside. Right? It would be a disaster if PSG doesn't make some knockout phase of a Champions League. And this first year of this league format has been wild. And I'm balancing these things in my head, Rob, because as a conscientious soccer fan, I understand that there are too many games and players are being pushed to the brink. And this is all a money grab. Money, 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 right? This is about UEFA trying to undercut the idea of the Super League by changing the format of the first stage of the Champions League, but adding 2 games. It's the same idea the NFL has. Add games. It's the same idea FIFA has. Add games. Everybody's idea is just to add games. I don't like that part. but the non-conscientious, just flat out entertainment-seeking soccer fan is loving this because it will come down to Soccer Palooza a week from today, January 29th, 18 games kicking off simultaneously with very little will be decided when we get there. Right, the table is close enough. Liverpool is through to the round of 16.
Yeah, look at that. They got the 1 seed.
They're the only ones guaranteed a bye to the round of 16 by being top 8. They're the only one in the table. It could change today, but this is just fascinating that we are going to sort of get all of this drama. It's going to feel, like an NCAA tournament day when we get there next week.
Yeah, that'll be wild. We'll see what